Welcome to Overfitted. We take a deep dive into a stack of information so you don't have to. And lately, the internet's just been buzzing with some really amazing visuals, haven't you noticed?
Oh, absolutely. Like that Studio Ghibli-style Lord of the Rings trailer. Just wow.
Exactly. That trailer by PJ Ace, it's just one example, really, of the kind of imaginative stuff these new AI image generation models are capable of.
It's pretty incredible to see how fast things are moving, and these tools are becoming, well, much more accessible to opening up all sorts of creative doors.
Right. And that's what we're getting into today. We'll look at some of the mind-blowing things people are creating, dig into that whole Studio Ghibli trend, the good and maybe the not-so-good bits.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll really get into the weeds with OpenAI's new GPT-Image 1 API. So if you're a creative or maybe in business or even just curious about this tech, this deep dive is definitely for you.
Yeah, and we've got some good sources lined up. There are YouTube videos showing off what the models and the API can do, a Reddit thread where people are sharing their experiments, always fun to see.
Totally.
And of course, the official OpenAI blog posts and the API docs for the technical details.
Okay, so our mission today, give you a clear picture of the opportunities these new AI image tools offer, but also the challenges, and specifically how you might actually use that GP-Image 1 API. All right, let's start unpacking.
Where should we begin? The creative stuff.
Yeah, let's look at some of the really innovative things. Matthew Berman's video, he called some of it insane. That Ghibli Lord of the Rings trailer by PJ Ace is a perfect starting point.
And what's really interesting about PJ Ace's process, well, it's the detail, right? It wasn't just a simple filter clip.
Right, definitely not.
He actually took, I think it was 102 screenshots from the original trailer.
Wow, 102, that's dedication.
It is.
Yeah.
And then he used OpenAI's own image generation, the stuff in ChatGPT and Sora, to redo each shot in that Ghibli style.
Okay.
But then he didn't stop there. He used animation tools, Kling AI and Luma Labs AI to actually animate those still images.
Ah, okay, so external animation tools too.
Right, it wasn't all done in the image generator. Then he re-edited the whole thing to match the original trailer's flow. It's this like mix of human direction and AI capability.
That's a great example. And it's not just Ghibli, right? Berman showed you could do, like, Simpsons style,
Yeah.
South Park.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or Lego, Minecraft, or invent something totally new. The stylistic range seems huge because, well, the models have seen so much diverse visual data, they can kind of mix and match.
Which goes beyond just art styles too. We're seeing really convincing photos generated, like that picture of Einstein in a gym.
Yeah, or those infographics, the How to Live in New York one or the Cat Leash one. They're remarkably clean. Not many weird artifacts you used to see.
And here's something that caught my eye. Generating complex things like world maps. They're surprisingly accurate.
Mm-hmm. Though, as Berman pointed out, you still get the occasional, small error like that Eno and Ocean typo.
Right, minor stuff, but the overall coherence is impressive, isn't it?
It really is. And you see people like Mike Tyson jumping on the trend, doing Ghibli versions of themselves. Even Sam Altman seems surprised by how popular it all became so quickly.
Yeah, Grant Slotton made a good point, didn't he? That the first big viral wave was this, like, positive vibes of Ghibli thing, not, scary deepfakes right out of the gate.
Which is maybe a good sign, but it does lead to that question about graphic designers. Is this going to make them obsolete?
That's the fear you hear sometimes, but the consensus seems to be shifting towards seeing these as new tools, right? Powerful tools for designers.
Exactly. Like Berman said, it still often boils down to the quality of the input, the data, and crucially, the user's taste and direction. AI doesn't inherently have good taste.
That's a really key point. It democratizes something, sure, but the designer's eye, their understanding of communication and aesthetics, that's still vital.
Yeah, it's maybe less about replacement and more about enhancing what humans can do. Maybe we'll see new jobs emerge, like AI prompt specialists or something.
Could be. And the applications just keep branching out, generating Wikipedia-style pages
Ooh.
with images and diagrams.
Yeah, again, mostly accurate, but with those occasional little glitches. And then super practical stuff. Making ads, pulling assets out of thumbnails, mashing people together in memes.
Somebody even made images in the old iOS style, the skeuomorphic look.
Oh, wow, really? That's niche.
Yeah. And educational comics, too, like that biomedical scientist explaining immune cells.
Yeah, right, saw that one. Again, sometimes minor text errors in the speech bubbles, but the concept is powerful.
Even generating realistic photos from cartoons, like Rick and Morty.
The range is just wild. though there are limits still. Like, apparently it struggles a bit with really wide formats like Twitter headers sometimes.
Interesting. But overall, these examples really show the potential, right, for creative work, for practical tasks, stuff that you, listening, might be able to use.
Definitely. But okay, we should probably talk about the less sunny side too. That Ghibli trend wasn't universally loved.
No, it definitely wasn't. Mashable, Forbes, they reported on a pretty widespread backlash.
Yeah, and the criticisms were varied. Some people felt it kind of cheapened Ghibli's unique artistry, the craft that goes into their films.
Right, the human touch.
And there were copyright questions swirling around too. Plus, Hayao Miyazaki himself, well, he's famously not a fan of AI art. He called it an insult to life itself, apparently.
Wow, strong words. And there's that irony, isn't there? Using this energy-hungry tech to mimic a studio that's all about nature and harmony.
Mm-hmm. That point was raised quite a bit. And just the broader idea that if you can generate millions of images easily, does art become disposable?
That's a big philosophical question. There was that study, UBC News, I think, about bias against AI art. People just feel creativity is uniquely human, and this tech challenges that.
It definitely taps into some deep-seated beliefs about art and humanity. Okay, maybe let's switch focus now to the tech itself, the engine behind a lot of this, the GPT-Image1 API.
Right, so this is the model that's actually doing the image generation inside ChatGPT when you ask it for a picture.
Exactly. And the big news, highlighted in sources like the All About AI video and OpenAI's own blog, is that this model is now available directly through their API.
Which is huge for developers, right? It means they can build this power right into their own apps, their own workflows.
Precisely. And OpenAI describes it as really versatile. It can do lots of styles, follow specific instructions, use its world knowledge, and it's supposedly better at rendering text inside images than older models were.
And companies are already jumping on this. Adobe, Canva, GoDaddy.
HubSpot, Instacart, InVideo.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of big names are integrating this kind of tech into their existing products for things like marketing, design, even recipe visuals.
Okay, let's talk practicalities. If someone wants to use this API, what do they actually get? How does it work?
So the output you get back is the image data, encoded in something called Base64. It's basically a way to send image data as text. The default format is PNG.
Okay, Base64, like a text version of the picture.
Sort of, yeah. Makes it easy to handle in code. But you can also ask for JPEG or WebP formats instead of PNG if you prefer. And there's a parameter, output compression, to control how much it's compressed, which affects file size.
And transparency. Can it do images with clear backgrounds?
Yes, for PNG and WebP, you just set a background parameter to transparent. They do mention it works best on the medium or high quality settings, though.
Right, quality settings.
Yeah.
That brings us to cost. How does the pricing work? Is it expensive?
It's based on tokens, similar to their text models, but calculated differently. There are tokens for the text prompt you give it, tokens if you provide an input image for editing, and tokens for the final output image it generates.
Okay, so 3 potential costs there. What are the rates?
Currently, it's about $5 per $1 million tokens for the text input, $10 per $1 million for image input, and $40 per $1 million for the image output.
Million tokens sounds like a lot. What does that mean per image, roughly?
OpenAI gives some ballpark figures. For a standard square image, you might be looking at, say, 2 cents for low quality, maybe 7 cents for medium, and around 19 cents for high quality.
Okay, so fractions of a dollar per image, depending on quality.
Exactly. But they definitely advise checking the detailed pricing in the documentation because size and quality affect the token count. It's not super straightforward how image tokens are counted, but think of it like processing complexity.
Gotcha. And how do people actually start using it?
Well, the GPT-Image1 model is available now, globally, through their main images API. They've also mentioned a new responses API coming soon, which might simplify things further.
So you need an OpenAI account.
Yeah, you check your organization settings in your OpenAI account to make sure you have access. They also really push people towards their API playground to experiment, and their image generation guide is apparently very helpful.
Makes sense. And are people integrating this with other tools? I think you mentioned Comfy UI.
Yeah, that was interesting. The Comfy org video showed how they've built specific nodes for EP-Damage1 right into Comfy UI.
For listeners who don't know, Comfy UI is like a visual flowchart for AI stuff, right? Connecting boxes together.
Exactly. So instead of a node that just loads an image file, you can now have a node that calls the OpenAI API and generates an image right there in your workflow.
That sounds pretty convenient. Any advantages to doing it that way?
Speed is a big one. Calling the API is often faster than generating locally, especially if you don't have a super powerful computer. Also, you can use the end parameter to ask for, say, 4 different images from the same prompt in one go from one node.
Oh, nice for batching.
Yeah. One little quirk they mentioned, though, sometimes the API images have an alpha channel transparency info, even if you don't need it. So they showed using another Comfy UI note to just remove that alpha layer afterwards.
Ah, okay. A minor cleanup step sometimes.
Yeah.
So what are some of the really cool, maybe unexpected ways people are using this API now that it's available?
Well, back in Comfy UI, people were doing things like generating multiple images in parallel, maybe trying different style prompts at the same time, and creating animations using GPT Image 1 for the starting frame, then feeding that into other tools like WAN animation to make it move.
Image to video, basically.
Sort of, yeah. And Phil in that video was exploring using the API to generate synthetic data, like give it one picture of an object and ask it to generate lots of slightly different views for training other AI models.
That's interesting. Beyond just art?
Definitely. Or generating diagrams just from a list of words. It didn't always get it right first time they showed a funny cyberpunt result, but the potential for visualizing information is there.
And the editing.
In painting.
Yeah, the API allows for that stuff, even though it wasn't originally in the main ChatGPT interface. So selecting an area and telling it to remove a necklace or add a tattoo or get rid of text.
That seems really powerful.
It is. And it can even maintain font styles when editing text, like changing an OpenAI logo to closed AI while keeping the look consistent, plus combining multiple images together.
And outside of Comfy UI, Julian Goldie mentioned using the Playground interface. Right, he found it much faster for making and editing thumbnails compared to using the regular ChatGPT chat. Just quicker iteration.
And those Reddit threads must be full of experiments.
Oh, yeah. People sharing all sorts of stuff, generating realistic wine glasses, turning people into Simpsons characters, manga style, making photorealistic versions of memes. It's a real sandbox over there.
It really sounds like the creative floodgates are opening, both for fun stuff and potentially for, real business applications, creating assets and media.
I think that's a fair assessment. The combination of this improved quality and the API access really changes the game in terms of practical usability.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, these new AI image models, especially with OpenAI's GPT Image 1 API, they're clearly offering some amazing new powers for creativity, for practical tasks.
Yeah, incredible potential. We've touched on the debates around it, the Ghibli thing and all that, but the main focus today was understanding what it can do and how you might access it.
And we really encourage you, the listener, to explore this. Kick the tires yourself in ChatGPT where it's free to try, or if you're technically inclined, maybe look into the API.
Absolutely. The official documentation and the community forums are probably the best places to go next if you want to learn more about using the API specifically. Lots of examples and help there.
Definitely check those out.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. As this tech gets easier to use and even more capable, what kind of creative tools or workflows are we going to see next? Things we probably can't even properly imagine right now.
That's a great question to ponder. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.